One person per year, yes.
And the wetlands, he was sent the wetlands.
What's that?
He was sent the wetlands.
Yeah. You're asking or you're confirming?
No,
Oh.
I know. I was told it.
Oh, yeah.
She's down. So what is
You
out
could,
there?
you could invert the agenda if you want.
Yeah,
Right.
I think we might.
And I do know someone who's on with me on the,
Since we have Roberta here.
Yeah, and is William there?
yeah, I'm losing it.
No.
He is, but he's gotta turn his camera on and then he'll show up.
Who's the head of the,
Oh, there he is now.
Hi, William.
Oh, boy, this is not good.
What?
But no Michelle
I'm gonna need,
Coronel.
it's just today. Today's been just crazy.
No, the only other person I see right now is Seema, who just has her camera on.
No, the,
Hi,
She
William.
might be just getting ready.
Okay,
the dementia,
Roberta,
everything related to it.
is it okay if we start with you?
Sure, what I have to say about the.
There's a couple of them.
Accepting.
Yeah.
One is called
Yeah,
Cantor.
I was gonna do that. I just wanted to make sure
One of the Alzheimer's.
Roberta was
I don't know
okay.
what.
This
I think he's the Alzheimer's
Hi.
Foundation. I'm gonna check on my list.
Good
evening.
No.
So,
Shall we just-
oh, yeah, sure. Pass over.
Okay, I think we're gonna start. We welcome to the May 2025
Wow.
Health and Human Services Committee meeting. First, I should announce that we have one member who was given a waiver to participate virtually, and that's William Ortiz for
There he is.
Okay.
unexpected childcare.
Ah,
So first we have to vote to whether or not to approve the agenda.
so moved.
Okay, all in favor?
All in favor.
Okay.
Ken, there is someone here now named Laquenda Adu. Is that who you're expecting?
It's somebody from Mount Sinai
I'll
Occupational.
offer to promote them,
Okay.
but you may want to just invert the agenda.
Uh,
Yeah, they
Well,
declined.
it might be the person. But we have a new member
Yes,
of
we
our
do.
committee, Jennifer. For those who weren't here when you initially sort of introduced yourself, maybe you could tell us a little bit about yourself, which is quite an impressive background for this committee.
Oh, I'm grateful to be here. My name is Jennifer Maulsby. My husband Chris and I have lived in the neighborhood for over 25 years now. We have 3 children, 17, 11, and 12. Our middle son is adopted from Taiwan. We have 2 biological children. We love our community. I worked for the Department of Health for a number of years. And one of my, my title, my last title there was the Director of Mental Health Administration. So I'm not a clinician, but I have a lot of, kind of respect and familiarity with some of our challenges and some of our opportunities to serve. And one of my main policy areas was September 11th relief work years ago. And so I graduated from the Wagner School of Public Service, ready to go and serve and work for the city. And I got a job and there was hiring freeze because of September 11th. And so I went and volunteered at the pier, writing checks to victims of the attacks. And from then on, just went into human services directly as opposed to OMB where I was going. So it's just took me into a different path. And I run a nonprofit called Everyday Philanthropy. And
Everyday
Philanthropy. And it's just like what it sounds like. We do, with raising my kids, it's a great way for me to give back. We do service learning programs. We do homeless support programs, leveraging my kind of career connections. And I've served on a number of boards, including a therapeutic riding board as well, because we're horseback riders. And that's it. But I'm really grateful to be here and look forward to learning.
Great. Maybe we could just go around and introduce ourselves.
Just to tell you, the other speaker is on now.
Oh, okay. Michelle, okay. maybe we just go around the table, Roberta.
Yeah.
you
Roberta Semer. I'm not a member of this committee, but I'm co-chair of the Budget and Strategy Committee, so I work with all committees.
I'm Saralee Evans, and I'm co-chair along with Ken of this committee. And this is my second year, starting my second year on the board, so that's very nice. Met some nice people here, and I don't know, that's it.
I'm Rachel McLaren. I'm a committee member here and also on Parks and Environment. I'm a student here in the city, so I'm expected a little bit, but yes, this is my second year along with, we were hired in the same cohort, so, yes.
Ken Coughlin, I've been on the board for 16 years. And I did about a 5-year stint as a mental health counselor back in the 90s. So I have a little bit of, and also have some professional editorial experience in the field of elder. So I know about Medicaid and
Yes.
Medicare, Social Security.
I'm Michael Cantor. I'm a public member of the committee. I'm a physician and just came from Bellevue for my clinic.
Shelley Fine, I'm a former chair of this committee, a member of the committee now. And otherwise, I'm involved I'm a chaplain, and a lot of work we do is mental health, dealing with trauma and dealing with the difficulties of life.
And Whisper,
Oh, and I'm also the president of the West Side Federation of Senior Supportive Housing, where we have 30 buildings, mainly supportive senior housing, low income, and a couple of varieties of others, and 3 senior adult, older adult centers. We don't call them senior centers anymore, and some health centers mixed in there, mainly on the west side, West Harlem, and the South Bronx. Okay, thanks for reminding me. And I spend a lot of time at Bellevue. They want me to be on the community advisory board now. Do it.
Louisa?
I'm Louisa Craddock. I have been on the board for 10 years. And I work for the Department of City Planning. I'm an urban planner. And I was the editor of the New York City zoning resolution.
And I'm Matt Vandervliet, I'm the district manager. We spoke.
Yes.
and online we have Will Ortiz.
Yes, hi.
Wanna-
My name is William Ortiz. I've been a board member for 5 years, a lifelong Upper West Sider for a very long time. Spent over 2 decades in technology and customer facing role, currently a business consultant now, and HSS member for about, I think, 1.5 years now. So loving every minute of it.
And did I see Michael up there?
Yes.
For a moment, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
There
here.
you-
Sorry, I'm bouncing back and forth with being visible here. But yeah, I'm been on the board. Same with Rachel. Same for started the 2nd year here, that cohort, and same with this committee for the same amount of time.
Michael, did you need a waiver to?
Yeah, that would be
To,
great.
So let's wave.
He's saying,
You technically you're supposed to clear it with the co-chairs before
Okay.
the meeting, but if you can give me the reason, I mean, just generally, like is it childcare or medical or?
Yeah, it's a medical thing. I can email you after though.
It's all of
Okay.
those.
he had reached out to me. I know
Oh,
he's
yeah.
supposed to reach out to you, but he let me know that
Okay.
he was sick.
I forgot to mention, this is year 39.
Okay, great. So I think we have, is that Michelle Cornell Lee there?
She
Looks
was
like it. She
there.
just went camera off.
Yes.
Oh, here she is.
I'm sorry, yeah, this is me. How are you?
Hi.
So my name is
I think- Yes, go ahead.
awesome. My name is Michelle Cornell Lee, and I am the Outreach and Education Program Coordinator for Mount Sinai Selikoff Centers for Occupational Health. And I really wanted to present on the services that we provide here at Selikoff. So whenever you guys are ready for that presentation, please let me know and I can share my screen.
I think we're ready.
Awesome.
I think
So let me go ahead and get started with that. Okay, so again, I'm here representing Mount Sinai Selikoff Centers for Occupational Health, and to share some of the services we offered for injured and sick workers. Before we do get started, I would like to start off with some definitions. Our clinic tends to get a little confused, and people see us as OT, occupational therapy. So I just want to say we do not have OT. We are not an OT clinic. So occupational medicine is a specialized field that focuses on the diagnosis, the treatment, and prevention of work-related injuries and illnesses, and individuals that are injured during their course of employment or who suffer from work-related illnesses or injuries require specialized care, and they may be eligible to register for workers' compensation benefits. Now, two things can happen to us while we're working. So we can experience an injury, and this is anything physical damaging that occurs during the nature of our work, including accidents or repetitive motion injuries. When I say repetitive motion injuries, without us noticing, every day when we perform our jobs, whether we're working behind a computer, whether we're working in construction, whether we're driving a truck for work, we're moving our body the same way for 8 hours a day, sometimes 12 hours a day. So eventually something's going to catch up to us, whether it's a sprain, a fracture, a burn, or a fall. We can also experience an occupational illness, and this is exposure to certain factors in the workplace that may cause you to become sick, such as chemicals, noise, or physical stress. We can develop anything from respiratory disease, hearing loss, and even occupational cancer, which we see a lot for the NYPD community that were exposed to 9/11. Many of them have cancers that are linked to that exposure. We also see it very commonly in the field of nail technicians, right? Because they're dealing with chemicals all day long. Many of them tend to experience dermatitis on their skin. So this is just something to think about. So New York State is the only state that practices occupational health clinic. We do have 8 regional clinics, and Mount Sinai just so happens to be one of those clinics. In this network, each of these clinics are dedicated to diagnosing, treating, and preventing work-related illnesses and injuries. So what we offer at Mount Sinai, we offer no-cost confidential care. When I say no cost, is because we are funded by the Department of Health, and they do offer 3 free visits for the person to come in and for our doctors to determine whether the injury was indeed related to the job that they do. And then after those 3 free visits, if it is related, then we will go ahead and start charging an insurance. We do see people regardless of documentation status. So even if they're undocumented, whether it's a construction worker, if they get hurt on the job, we would definitely service them. And then we support accessing services and benefits to the New York State Workers' Compensation claim. And we offer a lot of community outreach and education by collaborating with unions, community groups, work centers, and local officials. So these are the services that we offer at Mount Sinai. Confidential medical exam and diagnoses and treatment for work-related medical conditions, including occupational COVID-19. We offer coordination of care with specialty medical services, screenings for exposures to work-related hazards, including that OSHA-mandated screening. We offer disease prevention programs, work evaluations through our ergonomics and industrial hygienist program. We do return to work accommodations. We do have a team of social workers and benefit counseling that they are there to help address any disease or injury related personal and family issues. Again, in New York City, we see so many different people from so many different backgrounds, but one of them that comes to mind is MTA drivers. They usually get assaulted a lot while they're working. It's been very scary and traumatizing stories to read where like someone goes to work and just gets sliced in the face. So it could be very traumatic for someone to want to return to that job. And sometimes they do need some help from our benefit counselors to get through to that. Again, we do assist with the whole entire process of the workers' compensation. And we also have the World Trade Center health program that we help enroll 9/11 workers and volunteers into the World Trade Center program. So how can we help? We help by assessing and follow up. Our doctors assess whether the injury or illness is indeed work-related. They provide follow-up care and initiate the workers' compensation process if needed. And we prioritize treating the work-related condition while focusing on patient safety and preventing a further injury or illness from workplace hazards. And we also collaborate with other physicians. So in case we don't have a specific physician to treat that specific injury, we would refer out for that person to receive care. We do have 4 locations. Our closest location would be in Harlem. That is our 1468 Madison Avenue location. We are also in Staten Island, and we cover MHV region as well. And this is through our Yonkers location and our Suffern location. This would be our flyer that I would circulate at the end of this meeting. And just a quick brief overview, we did create a 1-hour workshop for youth ages 16 to 24, where I go in and I teach the youth on how to recognize certain hazards at work, depending on the job that they're doing, what are their rights when working in New York State, and how to stay safe and healthy at work. And they're introduced to other good things like OSHA and what is OSHA there to do to help them. So we're always looking for any organizations that work with this population that are interested in having us conduct a workshop. And that was all for my presentation today. If this was the first time you guys have ever heard about this, has anyone ever gotten hurt at work?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yes. And there was no assistance being taken to a clinic next door and then figuring out what to do from there. And you want to sue? Lawyers came forward.
Really?
Oh, yeah, yeah. It was specifically, I was training at City College. I was training 35 teachers, and I brought in a box of material. And as I was carrying it in the hallway, I slipped and fell, but there was no sign up or anything. It had just been waxed over the weekend or over a holiday. There was a day holiday. And that morning they waxed it and it was wet. And I fell, hurt myself badly. Ended up at St. Luke's now, Mount Sinai, Morningside. And it was serious business. I never missed a day of work, I think, in my whole career. I think there was 2 or 3 weeks where I could not get myself, and I wanted to go back. But they wouldn't let me go back with crutches or a cane. That was restricted. So I said, I just need a cane to be careful. Other people should be careful around me. No, if you have to come in with a cane, you can't. And I was an assistant principal in that school. But it was at City College. They said that I was not entitled to anything, but then they was because it was during work time at an assigned location. And someone who was part of the group that I was going to train took pictures that there was no sign, no I don't know what it's called, you know, they put the yellow,
Mhm.
thing and that it wasn't there. It was wet. Oh, it was also wet. It wasn't just wax. The air conditioning was dripping, and so it was waxed and wet. But carrying the box, I couldn't see. And I was walking with the chair of the department who didn't realize it either, and that person was carrying nothing. So
Were you made aware that there are places like the Selikoff Center?
no,
Weren't there?
no, I was just taken
There were there, this is a long time ago.
Oh, was that a long time ago?
maybe 12 years ago.
Oh, but-
Michelle, when did the Selikoff Center start?
Good question. I think a very long time ago, way before I've been here. I've only been here for 2 years. But I think because of situations like this, right? That these situations happen every single day, at work, and it can be a slip or a fall. It can be recently what I've been experiencing is one of my friend's moms works for a hospital in Long Island. She's been in her office working behind a computer for 20 plus years for this hospital, but she realized that every single time she would sit in her office, migraines would happen, right? But whenever she would get home, the migraines would disappear. Eventually they did some exams of her sinus regions, and they realized that she was growing mold inside her sinus regions. They tested the carpet in her office, and they found that it was linked to the carpet in her office. So it's things from a slip and fall, but it can also be the environment that you're in, right? So even from like sitting in an office where the light is always dimmed, and maybe you don't have good lighting in your office, now you're straining your eyes. But what we want from, well, our goal really is to put our clinic out there. A lot of people don't know that there's a clinic for this service, right? So I've been going and tackling all the community boards. It's funny because some of them actually turning me down, especially Brooklyn locations, because they're like, well, you're not in Brooklyn. And I'm like, yeah, well, we just want you to know that if something were to happen to anyone who's living in Brooklyn, but maybe working in the city or willing to take that train ride, we're here if you ever need us. But unfortunately, there's no guidance, right? A lot of people are told to even take their personal sick time if they get hurt at work, and that's not the case. And then I think what we're used to, my husband does UPS. What he's used to is, oh, maybe he stepped wrong and now his ankle hurts. He'll come home and take a Tylenol or an Advil. And, you know, the issue is we don't know how our body is going to react 5 years from now, and we could have reported that. We don't necessarily have to file for workers' compensation, but we could have reported maybe we slipped or tripped at work, have that as an incident report, and if 5 years down the line that same injury starts to hurt you, now you have something to back yourself up on. But a lot of people don't report certain injuries at work, and that's the problem.
Oh, this is eye-opening.
Questions?
Rachel, yes, I have a question.
Go ahead.
William, sorry.
I'm sorry. No, it's fine. I have a question regarding people who do not have documentation for citizenship. I know you mentioned that there's 3 no-cost visits that you can undertake, but how far does the extent of that help go as far as like workers' compensation and like the other benefits that they may be entitled to, even if they do not have certain documentation? Do you have like more of a outline on what that looks like?
So if they don't have insurance, right? And they would see us, they would get the 3 free visits, but then our social workers will help them get connected to an insurance that would be provided to them. And then the team of workers' compensation would guide them through the entire process. I'm not very familiar with the workers' compensation process, but I know that even if you're undocumented, they can still file for workers' comp. There was actually something that came out, I think I read about it last year, but if they're working on an immigration case and if they have a workers' comp case open, I saw something that like it was gonna help them in some way somehow, and not to like have fear that because you're reporting an injury, you know, now you're gonna lose your job and possibly get kicked out.
Thank you.
But we have a team that does the whole thing, and they'll guide them through that. William?
Hi, thank you for this presentation. I'm just curious about, you know, technology is an interesting space when it comes to documenting, say, long-term effects. I know people who work in the telecommunication field, they're surrounded by all these frequencies and antenna, and 5G is a slippery slope of 5G because there is a line where it can become dangerous.
Okay.
Has there been any cases where we've seen or can be linked to people who work in these fields, whether they're out in the field, like actually putting up satellites, or they work in a storefront like Verizon or whatever, where the stores, I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but, and I'm not trying to point out Verizon, just naming one, that they have a high power 5G antenna so that when you walk into the store, your phone all of a sudden just seems to magically work. But we don't know what the adverse effects of that are if you're going to be in the space for 9 hours a day, 5 days a week for the next 5, 10, 15 years. So I guess my question is, has there been any cases where there has been showing some scientific evidence of that, of people coming in with something lingering that can be linked to that? Just because I have family members who've been exposed to that for years, and I'm just curious if they should go seek support.
Yeah. Thank you so much, William, for that question. So that's something that I feel like I could connect you to the industrial hygienist, right? So he's our scientist basically behind this. So he would be the person to answer that question. I know right now what he's created, where he found that there's been a link with the chemical products that we're using to clean. So he's actually developing, hopefully with funding and everything, but he will develop a clinic for the Selikoff Centers that is just dedicated for your maintenance workers, people who are cleaning hospitals and schools and buses and planes, because there is a really big exposure to the cleaning chemicals that they're being provided to clean and disinfect in long-term effects. So that would be the person that I would love to connect you to, give you his name, and then feel free to ask him that question. I'm sure there's an exposure to everything. If you're doing it long-term, anything can really hurt you, right?
Yeah.
I think even just sitting behind the computer, that's why now people have developed that, you know, that blue screen glasses thing. Yeah. So I think if you're doing it for X amount of hours, anything can really cause us harm. There's a big study right now with people who do nails, right? So a lot of them are hunched over for 8 hours a day. And there was like a linkage with fertility issues for these women. So again, it's things that you wouldn't even imagine can happen.
Yeah, thank you for that. And I definitely would love to speak with him because I have family members who also clean regularly,
Same.
you know, by themselves, like they're not part of a corporation, so they're
Yeah.
running their own business, and that support would be really, really helpful. So thank you so much.
Of course. William, is there any way that you can put your email in a chat?
I don't think I could put my email in the chat, but if you have anyone's information, Max or Ken or anyone,
Okay.
I could just shoot they all should have my email.
Okay.
But yeah, I don't see a way to put it in the chat at the moment.
No, we don't have a chat.
Yeah.
Okay, no worries.
Just one point
We have,
about,
yeah.
I agree about exposure to chemicals, but you shouldn't say that about exposure to cell phone or radio waves. There's no scientific evidence. If you look in the biomedical literature, there's no evidence. So I just want to clarify, like semantically, I know what you meant, like, you know, bad ergonomics, exposure to chemicals, fine, but you know, I wouldn't lump that in with radio frequency because there's no evidence that causes any kind of health, at least in the biomedical, in the legit biomedical literature, that it causes any health problems.
Yeah.
Okay. I was wondering, what is the line of reporting? in a large company, presumably it would go up to HR perhaps. Do you have forms online? Do people individually contact you? How does it work?
Yeah, so I can provide our brochure that provides a quick little information on how to report a workplace injury. So really you have 30 days if you choose to do that whole workers' compensation claim to report to your supervisor. And then we always recommend reporting via writing, never verbally or calling him or texting him, just because text messages can be deleted. And if you say something to me verbally, I can always say, oh, they never told me. That never happened. So always asking either for an injury report with your employer should provide you with, or even if it's a letter that you can write saying the when, the where, that how it happened, if there were any witnesses. And again, you just have 30 days in order to make sure that that gets through your supervisor. And then if it's an illness, right, like God forbid cancer or asthma, then you would do it the moment you get diagnosed by your doctor. That's when you would report it.
Okay, but do you have forms
I do.
online?
We do.
People
So
fill
I
it
can
in.
I can provide that. I'll make a note.
Go ahead, Jim.
Michelle, so this is a consumer driven process, it seems. So it's an individual coming to the center, as opposed to, the company coming to the center typically.
So it depends. So if
Yeah.
it's an injury, for example, it can be an individual that maybe was part of a board and or someone that met me at a health fair and got our information. But it can also be the employer itself, right? In case, let's say people are constantly complaining about back injuries and they're sitting in everyone is sitting in the same chair, right? So they would reach out to us, and then we would get our team of the ergonomists to go to that place of work and see how people are working, whether it's the posture, what chairs you're using, how's the lighting. He would take everything into consideration and see if there's any linkage. So it can go both ways, but when it's the employer, I believe there's a fee. That's something that the employer pays for. But again, it can be maybe me just reaching out saying, hey, I got hurt, I heard about your clinic, or the employer.
And the center is also doing research, because that's what is the end result of being important to gather data, to have better practices going forward. And so all the consumers who make it past that 3-session threshold, or even before, would understand that they're opting in and that there may be data captured for particular studies, or is it a blanket opt-in?
Yeah, so the Mount Sinai Selikoff Centers is also doing its own research. We do a lot of webinars, depending on what's I guess more popular or what people want to learn about. So in the summer we'll do heat exposure, right? So your UPS workers that they're driving the trucks and they're exposed to the heat and their trucks don't have AC yet. You know, that truck gets over 100 degrees in the back, and there's been so many workers that will pass out behind the wheel, or they're taking their lunch break in their car, and some of them have even died in their truck. We recently had a series of webinars where we were teaching on nutrition for workers who don't really have microwaves, right? Your construction workers, your blue collar workers. So we were teaching them on how to, fuel their body throughout the long hours of work, but do it where you're choosing good options, whether you're gonna buy out or pack something at work. But we do little webinars like that, dedicated for workers of all types of field.
The data collection is robust during the engagement, though.
I hear you so far.
Yeah. When someone opts in and they use the services, there's also data collected by from the individual. So how they're feeling today, how they're feeling after a month, how
Yes.
they're feeling after that, and then continues, and that's done through Mount Sinai.
Yes, Mount Sinai is doing that as well.
A question, it's occupational health. Does it have to be formal work, or could it be a volunteer working at a community organization doing work?
So it's everything, right? So for the youth, we even created it because we know they're gonna start summer youth, and summer youth is only a few months. So even if they get hurt while they're working under summer youth, they can also come see us.
So if you're on a community board and they make you sit in chairs that are hurting your back, that's the only chairs available, does that fit?
That is definitely something that your employer should reach out to us and have our ergonomics take a look at those chairs and provide you some comfy ideas.
We're all volunteers, so it doesn't work that way.
You have to be covered potentially by workers' comp to take advantage of these services long-term?
I don't think so. That's a good question, but I don't think so. Workers' comp only if you get injured at work, but if you're trying to look for like chairs to avoid certain injuries for your employers, I don't think that would go under workers' comp. I think that's just an out-of-pocket cost.
But I think it's all employee-based.
And so what?
So what is the end goal that you're looking for? Say with the chairs, that the employer would replace all the chairs with ergonomic chairs.
Yeah,
Is
so
there any kind of financial recompense involved in this?
I have
Or just-
no idea. That would be a question for the ergonomist. I can definitely ask him what the end goal would be, but I know we don't have anything to do with that. We would just recommend, he would recommend whether it's a chair, whether it's something for your wrist, just so you can avoid that injury, or your team can avoid that injury if they're complaining about back pain and stuff.
But the
I
company would have to
understand
measure.
that, but is there any kind of financial recompense because of the injury suffered? Beyond fixing the situation?
That's not
That's a
occupational
good
health.
question. I wouldn't know the answer to that. I can ask.
You get
Workers'
money from
comp or
workers' comp.
sue, you have to
But
sue.
not everybody is covered by workers' comp.
That's
But
Then
that-
you're,
but,
then you're screwed.
Yeah, occupational health doesn't do anything about financial. They
They
evaluate.
just take care of the health.
Yeah, they help you do.
Okay, any other questions?
I just want to say, this was eye-opening, really.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah. Michelle, it's very good to know about this service that I never knew about.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me today. And I will email our flyer and whatever other information that I have that would be useful for the community board. Or if you would like to get this in paper, I can also stop by since we're basically neighbors.
Mhm.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much for
Thank you
having
very
me.
Okay.
Okay,
You wanna,
So we have yet another new guest. Roberta Semer, who some of you may have seen before, is here to talk to us about the visiting nurse service work at NORCs that are naturally occurring retirement communities, of which there must be many on the west side.
And I'm also gonna talk about the mental health, the geriatric mental health that visiting there, so I chair the older adult task force for CB7. And for those of you who don't know, we have community board members on the task force as well as various organizations, including visiting nurse service, including someone from Mount Sinai North, somebody from Goddard Riverside, somebody from West Side Federation for Supportive Senior Housing, Skill, et cetera. And we meet monthly and we discuss, the agenda is pretty loose. We, if an agency or an organization is having a problem, we discuss that problem. So visiting nurse came to us this past, and because we're a task force, we can't pass resolutions. So when we have something that we want, we go to the appropriate committee. So usually it's HHS, sometimes it's the transportation issue. So anyway, at our May meeting, somebody from visiting nurse came and spoke about the visiting nurse North nursing program. And they provide for 30 NORCs in the city, and they want to provide for more NORCs. They provide nursing help 2 days a week. And it's usually the same nurse. So the nurse gets to know all of the seniors. And if Joe isn't taking the proper medication, they'll arrange to get the medication done. They'll know that Sally has high blood pressure, so they'll check her blood pressure. And it's really a preventative program that helps the seniors stay in the community. And because it's a NORCs also have social workers, so the nurse can make sure the person is getting the other support systems that they need, including nutritious food. So they want to they want $400,000. Their program is $2 million. They want an additional $400,000 so they can open up in several more NORCs.
Open up what?
In several additional NORCs. Right now, they're in 2 NORCs in 1 NORC on the Upper West Side, and we have 4. So it would be nice if, we might actually get another person. So the resolution is, explains what a NORC is. Actually, there are NORCs at 38 NORCs, I'm sorry.
In the city,
In our district.
in our district?
Right.
Our district. Can you tell us what is there some official designation? I mean, is it an official designation? Is it like it's a building where older people live? Like what defines it?
So a NORC is a natural occurring retirement community.
Right.
It has a specific location.
Okay.
A certain percentage of seniors need to meet under a certain financial guideline. If you live in that NORC district and you're making above that, you can still belong to the NORC. But there needs to be a percentage of people below a guideline. And the NORC has to provide certain services. There are a couple of privately funded NORCs, but most NORCs are funded by DFTA.
So if a NORC has the requisite amount of money, can they just open up? Or are there guidelines for?
There are guidelines. So you need an organization to come in and set up the NORC, and you need to meet specific requirements.
And is the organization like it's not the Department of Aging, it's some
It would
independent
be Goddard
organization?
Riverside.
Okay, good.
It could be,
community.
it could be with.
Yeah, okay.
So National Council of Jewish Women have a NORC. The 303 West 66th Street has a NORC. Lincoln Towers has a self-funding NORC. And the NORC that we're talking about is at Goddard Riverside at the community center on 65th Street.
So since it's like an income-based threshold, you're not serving people who they're part of the NORC if they're making above a
They can
certain.
belong to the NORC.
They can belong to it, but are they receiving the same benefits as people who are below the?
Yes, so there's, the nurses there, the social, they're usually connected to a senior center. So and you join the senior center for a minimal amount of money, $1 or $2. And then their meals, the senior centers provide nutritious meals, breakfast and lunch at very minimal cost. But the North provides activities, it provides a social worker, it provides a specific range of the North will, the God Riverside North will take people shopping to different locations, so they have a van every couple of weeks. That during COVID and continuing, they arrange with food pantries to have food there for food distribution. And so our resolution is that Manhattan Community Board 7 recognizes the importance of Newark nursing and supports the VHS Health Newark Nursing Initiative, urging the City Council to approve the requested funding of $2,400,000 to maintain and expand the vital program. Basically, what they're doing is they're providing services to enable these people to stay in their home, which basically is reducing costs.
Yes, sir.
I did the math. I think it's like $120 per beneficiary per year, which seems like a pretty good deal.
Yeah,
If it's keeping you out of an emergency room.
Yeah, no, and they're really fabulous. I represent the community board on the meeting with the Newark. They're supposed to have a partnership meeting 4 times a year. But during COVID, they started meeting every week. And it was a small group of us that met every Friday at 10 a.m. for almost 2 years. And then we realized, and we do things like find food pantries. We get the elected to provide a spot where we could do COVID vaccinations when those became available. And then we started meeting every other week. And then for the last couple of years, we've been meeting once a month. And it's the nurse will sometimes come to you if he's not otherwise busy. Will come and talk about what he's done. It's really totally impressive.
We have many elderly people in the community who, unless they've been in a hospital or in rehab, don't have a nurse coming or a health aide coming to visit them to check up on, to help them, even to take the blood pressure. I know elderly people who they don't know how to do it right. And so they're doing it, but it's like going through motions. That's emphasizing that, or taking medication.
Right.
And sometimes the medication was right, and now it's not right, anymore. Different medication, different
But they're
dosages
also
and so on.
eyes on the ground. So they're
Yeah, it's
actually,
terrific.
they can see,
It's also a way for people to ask questions and verify health information without having to leave their home, the
Right, and-
apartment building, or go and make an
Or
appointment
they've
for a
been to a
doctor
doctor.
6 months from now.
or they've been to the doctor and they didn't quite understand everything. The visiting nurse is there to say, oh, let's look at what the doctor recommended.
So do they visit people in the building they live in or in their apartment?
They can do both. They prefer if they can come to, but if somebody can't come out, they will.
So these nurses are only like daytime positions. There's no sort of like on-call or
No,
ability to
the
contact.
nurse is there just specific hours, 2 days a week. And the social worker is there, most days. And then there are other, they'll have events, they'll have different things on different days. There are probably phone numbers that are available where somebody is on call, but not necessarily.
Are the nurses from the Newark, are they suggested to be people in your life other than your own physician? I mean, do they replace physicians?
No.
Or-
They're nurses.
And they don't tell you that you don't need your own?
No, they're nurses. They're not nurse practitioners, they're nurses.
But can they refer to specialists or say you need to see this physician?
That I don't know.
That's probably out of scope for them, and they can tell you, they'll probably say, you have this, you should follow up with your
Yeah.
primary
Probably.
doctor. I don't think a nurse has that kind of
No,
authority officially.
Right.
I can say unofficially probably, but not officially.
and they are affiliated with, Mount Sinai and other institutions. So, you know, depending when the
Within their
point is, that there may be Norks that are going to Bellevue, there may be Norks that are going, you know, depending on what the relationships are, or people go to their own private, whoever they're going to.
By the way, if you have only Medicaid, urgent cares and city MDs will not serve you in the neighborhood.
Isn't it
Go to
terrible?
Ryan Health.
Right.
If you're elderly, private Medicare.
And Ryan is
But
also.
we have a lot of
member.
people in the community who don't,
Ryan is also a member of
some have nothing.
our task force. So anyway, I would like to present this resolution to this group and hopefully you will approve it.
Can I see any reason not to?
Approve or move to approve.
I guess.
All in
what-
favor?
Second,
Well, we,
You can vote.
I can vote there.
you can vote, yeah.
On the voting on my app, yeah.
Anyone
I'm trained on
opposed?
Thursday.
Oh, good.
Sorry. Tomorrow.
Okay,
That looked,
you got
so,
your resolution.
And as a non-committee board member, I
hold
vote
on,
yes.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Okay, you got Michael,
You got Michael.
you got William?
And then, yeah, I got William and Michael, you voted for it too, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes,
And
thank
then
you.
Yeah.
Is
Non-committee,
Seema's non-committee.
Seema and I.
2.
Thank you.
Okay,
That's
So
1 or
it
2.
What's non-committee vote?
two.
2.
And the other piece is the, I haven't read this. Do you mind if I read this? It'll explain. Okay. So what we found out is that there's a visiting nurse health behavioral program for older adults and for youth. I was more interested in the older adults, but that's good too. And what they do is they provide 6 for the seniors. I'm not sure what they provide. But I'm assuming it's a similar thing. They provide 6 visits. It could be in-house in your apartment. It could be at the visiting nurse office, or it could be in a virtual. And it's 6 visits to help stabilize somebody who's having a mental health crisis and helping them figure out what to do next and helping them with resources. It's been a very effective program. And the city has defunded it starting June 30th.
Defunded?
Defunded the program.
For how much was it? How much was the fund?
Uh,
$200,000. Oh, for a total of $400,000.
What's the name of is there a name to the program?
It is,
Geriatric Mental Health Initiative.
I promise so.
400,000. Yeah, it's not a huge amount of money.
Does it have a specific?
It's the Bronx and Manhattan. So
So it's mainly for salaries, right?
Hmm?
It would be mainly for salaries, because they wouldn't have equipment with them,
no,
per se.
no, they're not doing health checks, they're just. So, do you want me to read this?
Yeah,
So New York City residents across all age groups are experiencing increasing behavioral health challenges, particularly acute needs among homebound older adults and youth in underserved communities. BNS Health Division of Behavioral Health provides critical community-based mental health services that meet individuals where they are, whether in their homes, schools, or neighborhoods, through innovative, trauma-informed, and culturally responsive care models, including through Geriatric Health Initiative and Promise Zone program. Promise Zone is for the children. GMHI delivers in-home and telephonic counseling, behavioral health screenings, and case management to homebound and socially isolated adults age 55 and older, helping them remain independent, improve their quality of life, address mental health challenges, and avoid costly emergency care or institutionalization. The Promise Zone initiative place mental health professionals in 9 public schools across the Bronx to provide trauma-informed care to students facing emotional regulation challenges, grief, autism, and other behavioral health concerns. The Promise Zone teams conduct assessment, counseling, crisis intervention, and family engagement, reducing suspensions, emergency room visits, and 9/11 calls while helping students stay in school and succeed academically. From City Council discretionary funds, BNS Health has requested $200,000 in continued funding and support for the critical work of the Geriatric Mental Health Initiative and $200,000 for the Promise Zone to expand outreach and meet growing demand. Therefore, be resolved that Manhattan Community Board 7 recognizes the vital role of BNS Health behavioral health programs in supporting the mental wellness in both older adults and youth in New York City, and urges the City Council to approve the requested funding of $400,000 to sustain the Geriatric Mental Health Initiative and the Promise Zone Initiative.
Yeah, my only question was why we would be voting on a program in the
I know,
Bronx.
we can easily take the Promise Zone out.
Yeah, I was gonna suggest that.
So I was gonna.
We could
suggest
leave
as
that to
well.
a Bronx Community Board.
I'll do the.
Okay.
Okay, then so moved.
We have to formally propose a resolution
Well,
to approve,
We
and
just,
that has to be second.
second.
I propose, did you have a question?
So
It's all
it's not
proposed.
the 400, it's the 200. because
200,
we're taking
yeah.
it out, and it's not proposed to be replaced by anything through the mayor's expansion.
No, it just,
Yeah.
they defunded
They
it,
defunded
just
it.
200,000, the city council could find funding.
And the budget's coming up.
And
So-
it's the
so
election.
do we vote?
Yeah, so I propose a
Propose.
resolution to approve with excising the programs or the
Right.
promise of.
I second.
Yes, okay.
Okay. All in favor?
It's 9 again? Non-committee?
Okay, and we're going to watch the next.
So, yeah, so
Yeah, I
we
gotta
were, we were going to, as I said in my email, we were going to have we're actually probably gonna meet uptown around 106th Street
Yeah,
to talk about the shelter. But the Department of Homeless Services backed out like about a week ago. So
They're not ready.
they're not ready.
they're not
Yeah,
ready,
yeah.
right?
They're looking to come in June, they
Of
let
what
us
year?
know. What's that?
Of what year?
I just hope they'll stay on track for June, because I think they're very aware that when that you guys recess for the summer.
They did come last year and they were very forthcoming. Not just coming, but forthcoming.
They were.
Sheldon, 106th Street.
So anyway, that, we were gonna have a much longer agenda and we probably
Oh,
weren't,
shucks.
we weren't gonna be here, but this means we can go root for the Knicks or I don't know, anybody rooting for the Pacers?
I don't know if anybody
Can't
was
admit
telling
that.
You know, Gail said yesterday at the end of her speech at the Sailors and Soldiers Monument, she said, Knicks in 6.
Yes, that's what people are saying, Nixon 6,
From your mouth to God's ear.
Nixon 6 games.
Any new business?
Yes,
Yes.
so, under my other hat, as
Yeah.
co-chair of district meetings, statement. The city budget will not be ready until probably early July now. But we will have some information, and I will send around some information that the cuts, trying to get from the mayor's office, the cuts to Medicaid and its impact on Medicare. It's gonna be a really major problem.
You're talking about the federal cuts on Medicaid?
The federal cuts on Medicare and Medicaid impact the state budget, which impacts, so it's a multi-layered, so we're trying to reach out to the city council people and state people and federal people to find out how the cuts are gonna be impacted. because it's a multi-layer, it layers.
So does that mean our district needs?
We know food, we know the food, we know SNAP benefits are being cut drastically. So food insecurity is gonna be a major. I will try and get as much information as I can to get to you prior to the June meeting. But just in the back of your heads, our big priorities have always been, our three top priorities are food insecurity, public education, and housing. Housing vouchers is a whole different issue from your committee, but it's gonna impact people's lives. So, we've got to start thinking about that.
But we need to know what the cuts actually are before we can.
We need to know how the funds, whether the state can make up some of the funds, or the city can make up some of the funds. So we're trying to find that out prior to your meeting in June. So we may have a lot more information.
Okay.
If not, well, maybe we can just, because we don't vote on it, maybe we can do a Zoom, we can in July when we have more information.
Okay.
But just give your heads up for what's happening.
Okay. So that'll be on the agenda.
Because there'll be cuts like this, where they'll just suddenly knock $200,000 off of a viable program.
I
You have some
think
online content too.
Can I ask a
Seema?
question?
Yeah.
Roberta, I just have a quick question. So in terms of the next June meeting, I'm asking also on behalf of land use. Are we expected to come up with like a draft of what we want to see in the district needs statement for next year or in the June meeting? Or is that something like we start working on and get you something by the end of June?
We'd like to work on it in June. And then
Got
over the summer, we start inputting information. We can always add things. Last year I did everything last minute, and it meant that nobody could read the draft and make correct typos. I'd like to input as much as we can over the summer. The budget strategy committee will meet in July with people from Gail's office and Sean Brew's office. And we will send it out to all of you, but as much stuff that we can prepare ahead of time in June will be big help.
Great,
We know
thank you.
it's coming. We know the cuts are coming, we just don't know how drastic they're gonna be.
At least we're not Harvard.
Yeah.
We might be.
Just wait.
Okay,
Motion to adjourn?
Second?
All in favor?
For a change, a non-controversial meeting.